Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
On this week's program, a rescue package for disability services passes the legislature. Some leadership positions are changing in the Walz administration, and Senate Minority Leader Susan Kent talks about Senate DFL priorities. Stay tuned for this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Loehrke. The third special session of the legislature convened Wednesday as Governor Walz extended his emergency powers for another 30 days due to the coronavirus pandemic. A bill to provide $30 million in grants to home and community-based disability service providers struggling due to the pandemic successfully passed both chambers.
Sometimes public opinion pushes a body. And Mr. President, I've been here long enough to know sometimes when public opinion doesn't make the difference we hope it might. In this situation, the Senate was strongly for this and understood the need in a bipartisan manner, which takes us out of the world of politics. And they got caught into the world of other politics. And so the public spoke, they loudly, to members of the House, and some to us, but we were already kind of squared away, and to help understand the need. And so, Mr. President, a lot of people, and that pushed them to the point that they realized how important this was. And we had a couple hearings with compelling testimony about these service providers and what would happen if they were gone. And so, what would happen, Mr. President, if they were gone? And who were these people and that were helping? And why do we call them these people? And so these are our Minnesotans. These are our neighbors. These are individuals who, through no fault of their own, found themselves in a circumstance they never expected. These are the children of parents who are excited to have a newborn discover my child is special. And what are they going to do? I met a woman back when I first got here who was about 75 years old, and she had raised her child his whole life at home. And she said, I don't mind me giving my life, but what will happen to him when I'm gone? These places give individuals like this opportunities to thrive as best they can. And so they're not these people, they're people. I was reading this morning in my quiet time, and I ran into the book of Isaiah, and it said there, a bruised reed he will not break. Mr. President, we're all reeds. We all come and go. We're passing in the wind, and some individuals are bruised. But they're still reeds, and they still really matter. And I'm just so proud of the Senate for their stubbornness and sticking with this and sticking with me and Senator Hoffman and Senator Isaacson and so many of the rest who have made this go. So today, these places can be open to serve these folks.
Last week in a Zoom call with Senator Durenberger and Senator Abler and myself talking about what the ADA meant to Minnesota, what the ADA meant. And Senator Durenberger said, the work that we're doing here, that we showed twice, 67-0, is what they did in order to pass the ADA. And he said it's because it's the right thing to do. Don't ever forget that. It is the right thing to do. And so as we look at, once again, we are here in a bipartisan manner saying what is right for the folks in the state of Minnesota that desperately need the infrastructure in place in order to attain that independence that the ADA talked about, what Olmsted talked about. And I could go on and on about not leaving federal money on the table, but I'm not gonna, Senator Abler, so I appreciate you keeping this about what we're doing correct and what we're doing right. And I could go on about making that phone call and get technical assistance, but I'm not. What I'm gonna say is thank you to those folks in the House that listened to the stories of people with disabilities that need this infrastructure.
In addition to voting for president in the November election, all 201 state legislative seats will be on the ballot. Over the next few months, we'll bring you interviews with caucus and party leaders. This week, I spoke with Senator Susan Kent, leader of the Senate DFL Caucus, about how the pandemic and the projected budget deficit are shaping priorities. The budget news is grim. The latest from Minnesota Management and Budget is that expenditures are expected to exceed revenues by $4.7 billion for the next biennium. How will that shape DFL priorities for the remainder of 2020 and into 2021?
Hi, Shannon. Thank you. Yes, I mean, we have been talking to MMB and looking at these projections, and we have known that the economic hit to our economy and our state and our families and our businesses is significant, and this is not unexpected. It's caused by the virus and the fact that we've had a lot of people lose jobs and had their work and their pay curtailed, and it is having a definite economic impact. In the ideal world, the federal government, frankly, would do a lot more to support Minnesotans and Americans across the country, our small businesses, because we know that if we can support all these entities through the virus, then we'll be in a much better position to come back strong. I will also say that, being able to contain the virus allows our businesses to stay open, allows people to get back to work better. And so the more we can do to support those efforts to prop up the economy while we're dealing with the reality of the virus, that'll just help us. But the challenge is, at the state level, we cannot deficit spend. That is why we are so reliant on the federal government to do that. We have made significant efforts here in the state. I'm really grateful for Governor Walz's leadership throughout this. The legislature has partnered, I think, relatively successfully through most of it. But this is a serious issue, and it's going to take very serious solutions as we move ahead. But hopefully, we can keep things from being worse than they have to be.
The coronavirus pandemic is highlighting discrepancies in many areas, including education, healthcare, housing, and employment. I'd like to begin with healthcare. The Minnesota DFL Values Project, which is a governing initiative jointly through the House and Senate DFL caucuses, is stating that all Minnesotans should have, quote, the care that they need. What does that mean?
That means that everybody should be able to afford good health care. Have quality health care, have prescription drugs that aren't overcharged to profit and benefit the big pharmaceutical companies. We need to focus, and this goes back to the question of the values and what this is with the values of the Minnesota Values Project and the values of the DFL as we approach all of these challenges. We need to put people first. We need to put the interests of our neighbors, of each other, our families, first, and support them to make sure that they have the tools to be able to work hard and contribute and get a good education and have a decent place to live so that we can have a thriving society and economy.
As you know, education is the second largest area in budget expenditures for the state of Minnesota. And right now, education is not functioning normally because of the pandemic. Despite the challenge of that, the projected deficit, your caucus wants to fully fund public education and provide affordable childcare and support job training and support higher education. Is that simply aspirational, or is there a way to actually do that?
I think it's important to realize that these conversations definitely predate COVID. In terms of making sure that we're fully supporting our educational system, both from our K-12 schools all the way through higher education and career and technical training, this is something that is good for our people and our families. It's good for our kids. It's also good for our workforce and our society to make sure that we're training people for the workforce of tomorrow. These are smart things to do. We know that we have underinvested in education over several decades. This is something that I've been talking about for a while and others have as well. This is not new. We also know this is not necessarily something we can flip a switch on, and it's now become more challenging because of some of the economic ramifications of COVID. But we have to put a plan in place. And again, it goes back to where are the priorities? The priorities are in making sure that we're not providing big tax breaks to big corporations. What we ought to be doing is preparing the workforce that they need to be successful. That way it's a win-win for everybody, particularly Minnesotans.
Parents and teachers are anxious about the 2020-2021 school year. School districts have laid out a variety of plans, but should it become necessary that all schools pivot to online learning only, will there be financial support for those schools, for the infrastructure, the broadband access? Can the money be quickly gotten to the schools? And ultimately, do you fear that this next school year may just be a loss?
I would say two things. First of all, I really appreciate the recommendation from Governor Walz and his team that gives flexibility for school districts to be adaptive to the situations that are in their communities. What is happening in one community may be very different than what's happening in another community, and they should have that flexibility. I think we all agree that the best solution is to have kids have as much in-school time as makes sense and as we can do safely, because that's what's best for their education, often for their families who need to work and rely on their kids being in school in order to do that. If kids are distance learning while they're supposedly earning a living, that's a really difficult spot for a lot of families. And I hear that loud and clear in my own community. But we also know that districts are going to have to be able to adapt over time and with changing circumstances. And if we end up having a really rough winter, you've made a really good point. One of the challenges is, and again, with the state not being able to deficit spend, and we are looking at providing additional resources to our schools so that they can staff up for extra cleaning and sanitation, for example. That is where it would be really helpful if Congress would step up and provide the supports to our schools, which will allow students to participate more actively in the classroom, for teachers to be there safely and to stay safe. It's too important that we do this. I know all families, all of us, myself included, are having these conversations about the trade-offs that are inherent here. There's no way to wave a magic wand and just get kids back in the classroom and have everything be back to normal. We know that's just not a reality because of this virus. But we need to do the best we can to support all students and to deliver an education that reaches all students, because it's just too important.
Changing gears a little bit, how has the death of George Floyd changed the Senate DFL caucus's approach to policing reform and racial inequity in Minnesota, and does more need to be done?
A couple of questions in there, and I will say that the Senate DFL caucus has supported police reform and accountability for some time. So that is not new to us. There's a lot of this that is not new to us. What has changed is sort of a broader understanding, I think, real sense of urgency here, a real sense of urgency from members of law enforcement who also want to see change, certainly from people in our communities who have fully understood much better, I think, the impact of on communities, Black communities in particular, of not feeling and being safe in their own communities. And in terms of moving ahead, yes, we were able to make a good start this past special session, and I am really grateful for that. And I'm really appreciative that we were able to work on a bipartisan basis, and everybody really come into the middle to get something meaningful done. But we know it's just a first step, and I am really anxious that we come back together in January and continue this very, very important work.
And finally, prior to COVID-19, affordable housing was a big issue in Minnesota. We just don't have enough of it. Now, with a faltering economy, people losing their jobs, it's perhaps even more crucial. What does your caucus propose to help people get access to affordable housing and stay in their homes?
I think you and I had a conversation about this several months ago, as a matter of fact. So again, this isn't new, and it's not unique to Minnesota. The lack of affordable housing is a real challenge. There are a number of things we can be doing. There are things we can do during this interim prior to session even starting. But housing infrastructure bonds, for example, we've talked about that. That is a way that we can provide support to get developers working and building that affordable housing around our communities. We had an example this winter of unveiling a senior residential facility here in my district, and Governor Walz came out for that. And it's just an example of how it's a win-win-win, because you have seniors able to move into a place like that, and you also free up housing stock for families. So it's just a way of keeping the whole system moving is what's really important. And we know we have a number of tools available to us. This is an area, because it's not just a Minnesota problem. Again, I wish we could have some federal responses to this. This is a place where we could put people to work in an amazing way, to build a lot of housing, to solve a whole bunch of other issues in our society by giving people some freedom to move around that they might not have had. And then at the same time, put people to work and have an economic impact in that way.
Senate Minority Leader Susan Kent, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shannon.
This week, Governor Walz announced some key leadership changes, beginning with the Minnesota Management and Budget Commissioner, Myron Franz.
Myron's trust that he's built up, he is a friend. He is someone that calms a room by his presence and by his knowledge. And he's also super funny. He keeps me laughing. So I thought he was really doing a good one when he told me he was going to move on. And I thought it was another of his long, tall tales to me. And it turned out not to be. So he gets the final one. But Commissioner Franz is going to talk about that. He's going to go over and serve the state over at the University of Minnesota as their chief financial officer. The good news on this is there's about 2 people in the state that can do this job. And both of them are in the room today. Jim Showalter is going to, we're announcing him as the new Minnesota Management and Budget Commissioner.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to have made a difference in the operation of state services, but I hope you notice that I've referred to my team. I am so honored to have served with my colleagues at Revenue and at MMB. It is their work and their talent that we should celebrate today. They're the ones who made me look good. I'm proud of the many accomplishments we have achieved together as a team to improve state services for all Minnesotans. This is not the time for on-the-job training. And as much as it's hard for me to leave after 10 years with all the friends and relationships that I've developed and the accomplishments that we've had here, it's time for me to move on, and I can't think of a better person to come back to MMB than Jim Showalter.
I am honored to have been asked to lead Minnesota Management and Budget during this critical time. We will continue Minnesota's tradition of smart financial and personnel leadership. I'm ready to dive in with Governor Walz, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, the legislature, the great team at MMB, and all of our partners. We're going to develop a budget that addresses the current situation and delivers the services, critical services that Minnesotans depend upon. This is going to be hard, but we're up to it.
Governor Walz also appointed Brigadier General Sean Mankey to be Minnesota's next Adjutant General.
I assure you, Governor Walz and the citizens of Minnesota, that I will do everything in my effort to ensure we sustain the best National Guard in the nation. I would also like to thank Lieutenant General Jensen for his leadership and guidance, not only to me, but all the service members in the Minnesota National Guard. He was a tremendous Adjutant General, and he's a tremendous leader, and one that we have all learned a great deal from. Thank you, General Jensen. I'm honored and humbled to follow him in leading the soldiers and airmen of the Minnesota National Guard.
Meanwhile, during Wednesday's special session, the Senate Republicans voted not to confirm Nancy Loehrke as the Commissioner of the Department of Labor and Industry.
She is in the wrong role, in a key role that represents the whole state. As government is interacting with business, the Department of Labor and Industry has to have somebody that can connect to labor and connect to industry and work with them in what feels like cooperation, not a hammer that's about to come down every time they make a misstep.
Paul Bunyan Land is a very prized job for our high school students. It's a great place to work, and they learn great work ethics. So they hired their 16 and 17-year-old workforce, and they sent in the required waivers to Dolly, a system that had worked for them for over 15 years. In 2019, all the waivers were denied. There was no notification, no explanation, no help on how to work forward, just no solution, just the answer, no.
There are more than 120 wedding barns across the state, small family-owned businesses providing a barn for a wedding or an event pavilion. They were operating just fine for decades. Last summer, all of that changed under the new interpretation from Commissioner Loehrke. The rural event center owners and wedding barn owners were notified that they needed to put in elaborate and very, very expensive sprinkler systems. Mind you, there has never been a wedding barn in the state of Minnesota that has burned down.
I understand the issue with Senator Housley and the sprinklers in her barns, and I understand Paul Bunyan. We all love Paul Bunyan. Those are two examples. Please, Senator Gazelka, Mr. President, give me some more examples of why she wasn't doing her job well. Why she should go out the door today when we have really good laws that came out of this chamber that we all voted on a bipartisan basis to make sure we have worker safety during a pandemic nonetheless.
It shows an amount of irresponsibility with the majority that is really hard to contemplate. I can't imagine our having done the same in years past, to simply spring on this chamber an effort to take down a commissioner of the executive branch without even letting the executive branch or the minority party know that this is even going to be happening. Members, think about that for just a second. To simply spring this on us today, after having said the previous day that nothing controversial would be coming up today. That's not serious. That's game playing.
I worked with her on wage theft. I worked with her on trying to correct wage theft. And being stonewalled by the department in addressing industry needs. The people who were having to comply with wage theft or be fined. I've worked with her on the new rules that she's been putting out, where rules to construction industry were written in such a way that they weren't implementable, and she had to have multiple meetings after the fact.
There are 32 DFL members, there are 35 Republican members, and when you do that math, the DFL minority isn't some tiny little inconsequential minority. We are 48% of this body. We represent almost half. That should not be some mandate to do things like this by fiat, by ambush, by sneaking up on people. That should dictate that we should be trying to work together, that we should be honest with each other, that we should make good faith efforts.
This was not a sudden event. She went through the committee process early in the year. She was passed out without recommendation, which is the first warning. A number of Republican senators went to the governor privately to say she's not doing her job, find another spot for her, let her save face. Then COVID hit, then the riots hit. This was the time that there was nothing else really going on.
An occasionally shimmering globe 6 feet in diameter hangs majestically above the Capitol Rotunda. At its installation in 1904, the Rotunda's electric chandelier represented a new and marvelous technology in the Capitol. The chandelier is one of the unique features of the state capitol. What makes it so popular?
It's in the center of the building, and so if you look at this big round space called the Rotunda, it's one of the things you'll notice when you walk into this space. It's directly above you, 142 feet above, and it's really kind of, you know, this Rotunda is a showplace of the state capitol, so the idea is you see this beautiful light fixture that has 92 light bulbs inside of it that is really a spectacular part of the decoration. And that was what Cass Gilbert, the architect, had intended for this space, was to have this beautiful round space for the public and see all the beautiful architectural detail and artwork and light fixture in this case.
At the time, electricity was a new technology, and the chandelier was actually called Electrolayer. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. Yeah, this was really an important part of this building's design, was to have wired electricity throughout the building. There was a power plant that generated all that electricity across the street from the Capitol, and you have to remember this was a place to really proclaim and brag about Minnesota's technology and prosperity and progress. And what better place to have that than in your state capitol? So at that time, you know, a chandelier is a fixture that has candles, technically, and we still call it a chandelier today. But at that time, they were bragging that this was an electrolayer because electricity was so new, so it had a real value to really enhance the understanding that technology was probably a new thing and an important part of this overall design of the Capitol.
Is there some symbolism to its placement and the fact that we're the North Star state and it's shaped like a globe?
Well, we do have the North Stars in the floor of the Rotunda that represent the Minnesota, the North Star State, our state motto. If you look at the ceiling above here, it has a blue panels to represent the sky. There's 12 zodiac symbols and huge murals, 9-foot murals that represent the constellations. So some people do look at that chandelier or that lectrolier as a symbol of the North Star. And part of that is the importance of the state symbol as a North Star state was it's a guiding light. And so other states can follow Minnesota's lead, and that's the symbolism behind that North Star. So that could be a very appropriate way of looking at that electoral as a North Star.
How challenging is the maintenance of it?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive when you look at how high it is, and that's the question people will often ask on tours is how do you maintain that? There's over 48,000 crystal beads, 92 light bulbs inside that chandelier, and when you stand below here on the first, second, or third floor, you might be able to see there's 3 doors on hinges that can be lifted up. Well, you don't have to climb all the way up 140 feet to access that. It can be lowered on a winch and a chain, and then it gets accessed down on the first floor. And we can go on there, clean the crystal beads, change out the light bulbs. And so it's not as complicated as a lot of people might think it is. But once again, it's part of that overall design. You put in a beautiful light fixture, you are going to have to maintain it, so you have to figure out a way to get it up and down.
Is it true that it's done with the remote control now?
It is, yeah. Historically, it had a hand-cranked winch. So you can imagine that was somebody's job to lower that down to change the light bulbs. And now it's all wireless and mechanical, so you don't have to have as much of the manpower effort to raise and lower that chandelier.
If people want to see the chandelier lit, when are the times of year that it's lit?
Yeah, we have it every year. It's turned on for Statehood Day. May 11th is our state birthday, so we became the 32nd state, May 11th, 1858. So if you want to come and be guaranteed of seeing that turned on, that will be one day. We have started the tradition of turning it on for the first day of legislative session each year, so that's something that will be turned on that day. And we do, there's state events and public gatherings that sometimes at
like
Chandelier
the grand opening?
Right, just in August of 2017 we had the grand reopening of the Capitol, and that chandelier was turned on each of those days.
Is there a reason why the chandelier is only turned on periodically?
I think part of that goes back just to the maintenance part of it, because it's a lot of work to raise and lower it. You know, it's even though it's automatically can be done, there's still a lot of wear and tear on the chain and the fixture, so it's not something you want to do every day, bring it up and down. So it really is, you know, looking at the maintenance part of it. If you turn it on every day, it's often difficult, you know, to bring it up and down to change a few light bulbs. And so the other part of that too is that has such a long tradition of not being on every day that it's something that people look forward to seeing. So if it were on every day, it would be like, well, that's a really neat part of the building, but there loses some of that specialness of being unique to the building and the size and seeing it turned on just a few times a year.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Loehrke, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.